some contract issues and to adjust this upcoming summer, quite frankly. But I think right now it's still the Bucks. I think that Giannis still has reign, essentially, in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, he wasn't healthy down the stretch of that playoff series. So I tend to lean Bucks of all of these openings.
I mean, Monica, I noticed you didn't mention anything nice about the Pistons. I mean, my hometown, that was painful. You didn't even mention them. It was like it was right there in the front, and it's
rebuilding.
It's in red. Like, I understand Kay Cunningham and, Ivy, they're not there. But I have to agree with Monica when you talk about the Bucks. I understand that Middleton is up and Brook Lopez is going to be a sought-after free agent. But you have to do something. I feel like if you're the Bucks, you have to swing big because you have this generational talent in Giannis, who seems a bit agitated that he didn't win the Defensive Player of the Year award, so he's going to come back and add that to his game as well. And they have to do it by any means necessary, keep him there. I understand Middleton is going to be a free agent, but I think if they let Middleton go and lose Middleton, that they can go out and get a player that will want to play because of the appeal of Giannis. He's one of the best, to me, most attractive superstars in the league because his game is not predicated on him dominating the basketball, and he seems like a guy that doesn't mind allowing another star to shine. So I think that maybe the Bucks are the best place because they have the Greek Freak, and they have to go all out and all in to try and make sure that he doesn't want to seek free agency or ask for a trade in a couple of years.
Well, Bart, I'll tell you, if I was interviewing with the Milwaukee Bucks, my first question would be, are you going to re-sign Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton? Because that was a big indication of where they're headed as a team. That, to me, would be huge for them. I think when you look at situations like this, if you're a coach that has options, and that's very rare for a coach to have options at a high level, but these are high-level jobs. I think one of the things you're looking at is ownership, and specifically the stability and depth of the pockets of the ownership. And so in some of these cases, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Milwaukee, they just had a change in ownership, specifically the stability and depth of the pockets of the ownership. And so in some of these cases, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Milwaukee, they just had a change in ownership. Jimmy Haslam just bought a big piece of the team, and he will take over, eventually as the governor of the team. Wes Edens just stepped in to be the governor of the team. It's a little bit uncertain how they're going to work together and whether they're willing to spend. I think Matt Ishbia in Phoenix is potentially a great NBA owner. However, you do have to, there is an uncertainty there. He has not been in the job long, and he has shown incredible aggression since he's been in that position. Number one, with the Durant trade, and then, moving away from Monty Williams, who has a great track record. I think when you see something like that, you're a little bit uncertain. Maybe a different conversation about Ishbia in a couple of years when you have more of a track record. So I actually think that Philadelphia, from an ownership standpoint, has the most stability. Toronto does too. They have great ownership, but it's a little bit unclear as to what their future, their short-term path is going to be. With Philadelphia, with Joel Embiid under contract, that they're going to go to win. And Joshua Harris and David Blitzer have shown good, strong leadership there. They're stable and they're deep-pocketed. Josh Harris is in the process of buying the Washington Commanders. So I think that you'd consider ownership if you have multiple options here, because I do think ownership is one of the most important things, specifically having a stable hand there.
Wendy, I want to come back to you and then obviously open it up to all of you. Is Joe Mazzulla coaching for his job tonight? If they lose on their home floor, is it all over for him?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Molly. Obviously, it's a question that's been asked in the league over the last few days. I felt that the way the Celtics responded to Joe Mazzulla in Game 4, where he came out with a bit of a different game plan, and several different times in that series, in that game, they were kind of on the ropes. And all the times the Celtics rallied back. They did not show a team that was lackadaisical and unfocused like they were in Game 3. Had they not responded to their coach, and by the way, he called a couple of timeouts in the second half, of the team immediately responded to his moves. If they had gone back-to-back games under that situation and not responded to their head coach, I think it would have been more of an open question. I hate to say that a rookie coach's tenure would come down to a single game. So, I don't think the support has ever wavered from the Celtics front office. But if they had had another game like that, I think it would have created some pressure coming from the very top about whether they can do this again with players of this value. So I think Joe Mazzulla has stepped back from the edge because he showed that he has an ability to bring his team back, regardless of what happens tonight. And I also know, again, I'll reiterate this, every indication I have is nothing but support from Brad Stevens and his staff in the front office for Joe Mazzulla.
Monica?
I'm glad that you broke that down that way, Wendy. I think that is frankly unfair. And I know that Joe, post-game 3, fell on the sword. I haven't gotten his team ready. But that was certainly a performance that had plenty of blame to go around. And then I just also look at the questions that we've asked on shows all week long in terms of the Celtics organization. If it's going to come down to Jalen and Jason, which we don't know, I think that those two should stay together. But to get rid of Mazzulla now, again, would make for what? A 4th coach in 4 years? Like, that, to me, just doesn't seem to be very smart. It's not as if he was going up against some other rookie coach either, right? Like, this is potentially a battle that you lose versus Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler and company, which is, to me, not something to hold your head down about. And so I don't think that he's coaching for his job. Tonight, I agree with you. I think you got to look at the body of work, and I understand that is looking to hang banners. Like, mediocre success does not satisfy that organization, and I get that. But I think 4 coaches in 4 years, to me, seems very, very wild with a guy that they so strongly believed in up until this point.
I mean, I couldn't disagree with you guys more. I mean, when you look at it, it's not about, listen, life's not fair. And as an athlete, we understand that, right? It's not the fact that maybe he's not a good coach. It's the fact that look what's out there, right? Look what's out there. You have a Nick Nurse. When will you have 4 coaches that have the resumes? You talk about 3 of these guys are former coaches of the year, right? And I think it does come down to stars. And it comes down to the support of the personnel that you have. How does Jason Tatum feel about him? How does Jaylen Brown feel about him? Right? And, so I think it comes down to that, but I think this is a very unique situation. The fact that you have great coaches that are available. You're not passing them up or saying you're giving another assistant an opportunity. These are guys that we know are proven winners and champions.
I'll give you that, Bart, but where are you on the idea of continuity?
Listen, continuity is about my roster. It's not about my coach. Right, I understand, but in basketball, I feel like it's easier to kind of get your team to come together. It's easier. It's about leadership, personalities, and being able to manage stars. And we know that these coaches out there have managed stars. They have been successful managing stars, and they're available for some very unique situations because it's new ownership, because Doc wasn't able. I can't see Doc going back, but a guy like Nick Nurse, these are all champions, recent champions. I think you have to consider it. And if they go out here in Game 6 and the doors get blown off in their house, then it's time to say, maybe he wasn't ready yet, and maybe we acted too quickly and making him taking the interim tag off of his title.
Nah, I disagree with that. I think a new system, managing stars. When I hear managing stars, I think of guys that need a little more attention, maybe. And the personalities that the Celtics have, that's not what I think of when it comes to them. I think when you look back at Bud, some of the questions that you're asking about Mazzulla were the same kind of questions you were asking about Bud at a point.
What about Monty, though?
Monty, I do like. Another 1 year and out for the Celtics. I just don't think that's fair to everybody involved.
But if a guy like that's there, and you feel like he got the stuff, the goods to take you over the top, I mean, you got to look at it.
Okay.
Wendy, where are you on this?
Yeah, I think this unless the Celtics win the title, there is almost no way to declare a victory here because the Celtics changed coaches 3 days before the start of training camp, and they have a super premium title-ready roster. This is arguably the deepest team in the league with a bunch of stars on it, and they handed it over to a coach who had never spent one NBA game sitting on the main bench, much less, being a head coach in the NBA before. So there was no way that he was ever really going to have anything but immense pressure in a very narrow window to declare the season a success. And as far as taking the interim title off of it, it was a bit of an interesting decision, but I also think, again, the Celtics did that to try to help him.
Empower.
Because if we were in this spot right now and he was still listed as the interim head coach, it would be even worse. They wanted to sort of back him up to the players. If you're going to look at the decision about Joe Mazzulla, I think the bigger decision was last fall, or I guess it was still in the summer, when they elected to have him step in for Ime Udoka, but they only suspended Ime Udoka. They didn't immediately fire him. So it was a strange set of circumstances, and they're still in some ways trying to deal with the fallout from that. And I'm not so sure that there was a quote unquote better way to handle it. There's not a playbook for this. And they believe in Joe Mazzulla. And I will say this, he coached an excellent game with the season on the line in Game 4. I don't know if he'll do it again tonight, but just if you want to give a reason for why Brad Stevens believes in him, the way he performed under those circumstances is a real